Good day everyone, this is Virex and I'm going to be teaching you guys the topic how to make a game without coding. So the trick here is that we're going to be making a game without a single line of code. Yes, we're going to make a very good quality game without actually scripting or knowing what C Sharp is. Alright, to begin, I believe that some of you might not have what we call Unity 3D, and this course is going to be on Unity 3D. To get Unity, we would have to get it from the internet, and to do that, you simply come to your browser and use Google to be more preferable. You could use any other search engine, you will find it, but I just like to use Google. So let's search. We're going to be searching for Unity. All right, Unity download. Okay. All right, with Unity download, we have this is what we are looking for. Okay, go to download. All right, so now you choose your Unity and download, or you download Unity Hub. So now let's just assume that you want to. My advice is that you go for Unity Hub. Okay, download Unity Hub, and once you're done downloading Unity Hub, it's going. Let's say you're done. You're going to have this. Um, you're going to have this. Install it. Go to your download. Go to your download folder. Okay, look for the setup. Open it. Install it. When you are done installing it, come to your desktop and then open it. When you've opened it, the first place you should go is either you create an account. Okay, and to create an account, you would have a kind of like an empty window here. Click something like this, and then it should have where they say account or create an account. Alright, when you're creating an account, you can decide to go for the student pack or for the free version. The free version is less complicated than the student pack, because for the student pack, you have to have GitHub linked to your account, I believe. So let's go all the way down to the install, because we want to install Unity for the first time. Let's say, okay, fine. We're in the install window now. We have what we call all official release, pre-releases. These are my currently installed Unity engines. All right, so now let's go to these are all official releases, and I have no pre-releases. All right, so let's go to installing of Unity. Install editor is the button you're going to click. You will have this pop-up saying official releases, pre-releases, and archive. Okay, when we talk about official releases, we are simply talking about the long-term support Unity engine versions. And these versions are the versions that Unity is going to be supporting for the long term. And when you say long term, they are talking about a 2 years lifespan. All right, they are going to supporting that particular Unity engine for 2 years. Let's use 2021 for an example. They are going to be supporting 2021 till 2023. Once it's 2023, then they might not really be sending out updates to 2021 anymore, but to 2022, which is this. This 2022 is not yet completely verified as a LTS version yet, but you can see they recommend you to use their most verified one, which is 2021. For those of you that have a low-end system, I would like you guys to try and use 2020 or 2021. And for those of you that have a high-end system, or a mid-range system, you could try using the pre-releases or the official 2021 2022. All right, the archive window is just a place where you can go and get the available versions of Unity. Now Unity have what we call libraries. They have several kind of libraries, and when we talk about the archive in the install Unity editor pop-up window, we are just talking about the download the Unity engine versions that are stored for download that are not present in their Unity hub here. Okay, so why is it important to go look for those versions? It's important to go look for those versions in case you are following a tutorial online that supports those scripts that you downloaded on the internet, or a particular version that you have to use based on the assets or projects you downloaded from somewhere. So with this archive, you can go and get that Unity version and save yourself the stress of trying to upgrade or fix compile errors that you might find in your script. So now that we have talked about this, let's go to the installing of the LTS version. All right, so we have what we have what we call the platforms, rather languages and documents. Let's look at the platform. If you're planning to make, first of all, let's just begin with, for the platform, install everything, click everything if you're someone that has the space. All right, but if you're planning to make games for mobiles for now, you could start with just this. All right, you don't have to click the other versions of the other platform models. All right, you don't have to click them. But if you're someone that you're not yet sure, you don't have to install any of this. Okay, you can just go to the install. All right, saves you more space as well. You could just use it for learning purposes. But if you're someone that is sure that you're going to make a game in the future or within a few days, then you can decide on what game is going to be, mobile or system. If you're not sure, then get both. For systems, you have to click the Windows, Universal Windows, Linux, Mac. You don't have to use your Linux. If you're only shipping for Windows, you don't have to use Mac as well. You could just click the Windows support. But if you want to extend to Mac as well, you would have to add the Mac support. Now this is a lot of space. Okay, the more modules you select, the more your space increases. Take note of that. And now I can't install this because this has passed the available space available on my system's drive. Okay, another advice that I would like to give you guys to always remember is don't, you can, but it's always advisable to have a external hard drive, all right, where your projects are. With this, you are rest assured that your projects are not going to be missing in the future or in the long run. Maybe or there's an issue with your system and then you cannot recover the files on your system. Having your Unity projects on your hard disks helps you by saving you from this stress. Now let's talk about, now we've done the installing of the Unity, let's go to the project section. I believe this is your first time, and if this is not your first time, we're still going to make this our first time. All right, new project. Okay, and then this, depending on the kind of game you want to make, Unity has what we call templates, just like you have Unreal. So this helps you to start making your game faster and saves you the stress. All right, we have the 2D and the 3D. This 2D and the 3D basically starts you at nothing, just an empty world. All right. And another point to take into account is that we have what we call render pipelines in Unity. We have 2 render pipelines currently, and one of them is being absolute by Unity. Unity plans to stop bringing support for that render pipeline, and that is the old render pipeline. Okay, the one that Unity first started using, which we call the standard inbuilt render pipeline. So we are going to be using Universal Render Pipeline for this project, to make it short, Universal Render Pipeline. But then we have Universal Render Pipeline, then we have HDRI Render Pipeline. HDRI Render Pipeline is highly used by games that are AA games, heavy task demanding games, PS5 games, top laptop games. Also used by videos, for showcasing and other things like that. For those that make movies as well, they use HDRI Render Pipeline. Then for the Universal Render Pipeline is more acceptable for mobiles and PC. It's universal. It can work for both, and is well optimized for both platforms. If it's mobile, if it's system, is optimized. If it's PlayStation, is also optimized. It's used for all these platforms. Universal Render Pipeline. So since this game we're going to be making we're going to be starting with the 3D version of Unity. So we are going to click on the 3D Universal Render Pipeline. All right. We have the 3D Universal Render Pipeline empty slot, and then we have the sample scene. Okay. So you guys should click on the 3D sample scene Universal Render Pipeline, and then under project name it whatever you want to name it. My world, for example, and then choose your location, create project. if you don't yet have this template downloaded in your on your system, you're going to be prompt or given this button to download template. All right, you download the template and then you are good to go. So now let's say that you've done all this, all right, and then you have Unity open. What's the next step, you might ask? The next step now is to get the asset that I gave you guys on Discord. Yeah, to get this asset I gave you guys on Discord, which is this. All right, this, you download this from Discord. Okay, once you download this from, you come to all the way to tutorial classes, making a game without coding programming. Under this is what you're going to do. All right, you're going to get this file. And once you're done getting this file, so now that you've gotten this file, okay, what we are going to do is we are going to come all the way to, obviously the file is going to be in your download section. All right, you can do this two ways. All right, you can choose to drag the file into your project window, and release is going to enter, is going to be imported into Unity, or you can import it from this section. All right, custom packages. For example, I have some packages on my desktop. Custom packages, under custom packages, import packages. For example, this. All right, and then it's going to have this is UMotion Pro. Let's say this. Let's see, for example, it's going to give you this window showing you that it's importing some things into Unity. So you just give it a, let's just wait for it to be done, and it's going to prompt you with another window telling you to, are you sure these are the contents that are in this package, do you want to import? So now this has shown that this, like I said, these are the contents that are in this package, do you want to import? So you can decide to click import without checking what is the inside the package, but sometimes it's wiser to check. For example, maybe you just want the models in a asset, or in an asset, you want the models in an asset, you just try and check for them. Maybe the models are not here, fine, you can't find any models here. You can't find any models here, then you just uncheck this folder, and then under this folder, the example folder, you can see some scenes, materials, robot skiing, and cow. There's still no models here. Okay, there's a model here. Now you can try to uncheck every other thing and then just check only this model and click import. But for now, we're going to be using everything, so you click import. For the playmaker, I mean, we're going to be using everything, so you click import. And then once that is done importing, it's going to prompt you to do some installations. You install, it's going to prompt you with this window, install playmaker. Once it gives you this window, import it. If it shows again, import it. All right, and now that you're done with that, we're going to talk about how to access this playmaker. All right, so we're not going to be using this scene. This is my scene that I don't want us to use. We're going to be using the class 1 scene, because I believe that some of you were not able to hear me in the class or come for the meeting that we had on Discord. By the way, if you're still watching this, I want you to go to Discord, choose permission and role, put yourself under learners if you are interested in learning more of these tutorials. All right, so this is going to be fast, and we plan to actually start making an actual game in this tutorial. In the next coming tutorial, we're going to plan on making an actual game for you guys. Okay, so yeah, don't miss out. So let's begin with some introduction in this Unity phase. Let's say you're in the Unity window right now. You all know what this is called, the navigation bar. All right, and then we have the hierarchy. These are, by the way, the scene view tools. All right, they are the scene view tools, the tools we use for editing, designing in the scene view. All right, so now let's come to this window, the hierarchy. Some people call it hierarchy, some people call it hierarchy, but I'm going to call it hierarchy. I'm going to call it hierarchy. So hierarchy All right, in this hierarchy is kind of just like your notebook. All right, is where you put all your content from UIs to sounds. It's going to be everything that you see in this scene is going to be in the hierarchy, your notebook. All right, and with this hierarchy, you can get the exact location of some things. For example, now maybe I can find this cube. Maybe it's let's put it somewhere at 100. All right, so I can't find this cube anyway. See where the cube is right now, but let's just say I can't find the cube. To find the cube, I'm just going to look for the one that it belongs to, all right, which is this. All right, so let's say I'm looking for the cube and I can't find it. With your notebook, your hierarchy, you can simply just double tap and it's going to take you to this cube. Then you can now try to bring the cube back. All right, let's say you want to bring the cube back to where your other cubes are. All right, so now let's go to floor, double click on floor, come back. All right, you want to bring this cube back to where you are. You can do this by simply dragging it. All right, dragging it. If you're using mouse, by the way, external mouse, okay, on your system or PC, you can simply just press your scroll button and you'll be able to pan around. But if you're using your Windows, your system, and you're using the inbuilt mouse, you have to come here and then you can scroll around. All right, the reason why we are scrolling is because you will not be able to move this object at a certain view if you are not at a right angle to do this. For example, now we can't see the X, and that's because we are looking right, we are almost next to it, like we are looking at that place right now. We are kind of like aligned with the game object. To move some object in some certain directions, we have to be kind of like 45 degrees, 20 degrees away from the game object, which is, for example, this. Then this brings us the game object. So you can do it this way, or you can do it this way. All right, we will have what we call game object. All right, align with view or move with view. Move to view brings it to your front, all right, wherever you're looking at right now. And align with view aligns it to your exact view, like aligns it to where you are at the moment. Let's show you an example. Align with view. So right now you can see this orange box on the window. You are inside the box right now and it's aligned to the same angle you are looking at. You were looking at the plane or whatever you're looking at. All right, so I'm sure many of you are having an idea of what you can do with this right now, which is good. All right, so I'm just going to press Ctrl Z to just revert that. So now that we have this position here, let's just check where it is. All right, it's here. We want to do some other explanation before we go into Playmaker. So now we have the project window. Yes, the project window is just basically the body of your project, as we call it, your Unity project. This is where everything happens. It's your project, your body, where everything is going to be. All the files that you're not going to be using in the scene, it's going to be here as well. All right, all your main files that you won't be using are also going to be here as well. So in the project view, we have what we call the assets and the packages. These are the only two things you see in your project. Okay, assets and packages. In the assets window is where we have all the project files, of course, that is editable by you. All right, and then we have the packages. The packages are the background, the deep background files that you shouldn't touch. Even though you're a professional, you don't have to come here to do anything. All right, okay, so now we've talked about this, trying to save time, let's come to another important window that you would see a lot, which is your console. All right, your console is where you're going to be finding a lot of errors. For example, compile errors, mesh errors, animation errors. Your console is where you find all those debugs. All right, it debugs and it tells you what is wrong, and with that information you can search the internet. You can search the internet for a solution, or you could ask us with a screenshot about that in the forum which your class is being held. All right, now we've talked about that. Let's just talk about these warning signs. All right, we have three warning signs. We have the white, the orange, and the red. The white is simply just a debug that tells you something is working. Some, for example, maybe something that you cannot see or you cannot actually um, test on the system, or maybe it's for phones. You have to take it to a phone before you can actually see it. With the debug, you can be able to know if that thing is actually working or not. Then for the orange is just simply orange or yellow. It's just simply telling you that there is a slight issue with your script, but your script can still be used in the game. It won't stop your game from running and it won't cost your game any performance. You're good to go. But if you can edit this script or edit this issue or fix this issue, it will be nice to prevent any future mistakes being caused by that script or whatever it is that is indicating. And then we have the red. The red is the one that would never allow you to run the game. Okay. Sometimes we have now in the red we have what we call the deep red and then the red. The red would stop you from playing. The deep red will stop you from, rather the deep red, yeah, deep red will stop you from playing the game. It will not play. It's going to instead show you compile error, fix all errors before you can play the game. That is, there is a total blockage to accessing the game in game mode, which is the runtime mode. But for the red, which is not the deep red, it can be, and once you press clear, the red can clear. Some reds can clear. Those are called the reds. They are warnings that might be bad, but then you can ignore them. You can choose to ignore them. All right, it won't really cause your game any damages. All right. Yes, but then sometimes it's not good to leave the red to just be there. Sometimes this red can create a large memory usage in your game or on your system based on continuous or repeated loop. And when we talk about loop, we have kind of like something that rewards, that keeps on warning you and keeps on counting from 1 to 999999999. All right, and that can cause your system to freeze depending on how long you leave that to keep on warning you. So now let's go to what we call the inspector. The inspector window is another important window. It's kind of like your, as they say, inspector. What is something that it's the window that tells you more about this object you're seeing in the same view. It gives you more about the details of it, all right, and it gives you more options to edit the things on that object. So now we'll talk about the inspector. Let's talk about another important window, which is the game view. The game view is where you're going to be coming to most of the time, and it's also important you come here most of the time. Reason why is because this game view is your actual game. All right, this is your actual game, so you have to know what your game looks like, how it plays, and how viewers see it. All right, for some people, they prefer to have their game view next to their editing view, so they can just easily see what they are doing immediately. Why? Some because of performance drawback, they tend to just put it in its own window and activate it only when they need it. So now that we've talked about that, let's talk about the hierarchy. Let's talk about our hierarchy. All right. So in our hierarchy, as you can see, this was the thing with this was the things we did in the class. Okay. So in the hierarchy, we are able to do so many things with right clicking in this window. Right, you right click and then click what you want to do. Okay, so in the class we created an empty object. Yes, create empty, and then you have something like this. Okay, so now we also talked about being organized. Okay, when it comes to making games, you have to be organized because this helps you to be detailed, to be ordered, to perform well, to resume easily and effortless from a long break. And also, whoever you show your projects to would just love the way you keep things. You just be able to navigate through things easily and also fix a lot of errors that might cause your game issues based on wrong orders and stuff like that. All right, so now to begin ordering your putting your game into order and sorting things out, let's talk about renaming your game object. Renaming your game object is very important, as this tells what your game object is about. All right. Now we talked about game object to be anything in your scene, anything that can be edited in your scene view. That is your God mode view, is considered a game object. All right. So to edit this name, all right, you're going to double tap, not fast, but a normal double tap. 1, 2. Okay. Since I already clicked on it before, I just had to click on it once. All right. So now you can change it to whatever you want to change it to and press enter. It changes. Okay. And then another way is to come here. As you can see, we did this in the class as well, and then you rename it to level 1, and that's done. All right. So now that you've done that, I want you to take note of another thing: your game object transform. Each time you make a game object, we have what we call transform. The location sometimes won't be 0, 0, 0, 0. All right, it might be a transform, a position that's not appropriate for where it's meant to be, or it didn't come out where you wanted it to be. All right, which is normal. Of course, you're expected to manually adjust the position by yourself. But when we're talking about an empty game object like this that has nothing being seen in the view of the game object, it's always important to leave it at 0. All right, so you just reset this to 0, 0, 0. All right, once it's reset to 0, all right, what this does is that it fixes any errors. For example, we have some animations that when being some game objects, for example, now let's say you have a game object that is animated, all right, and you keep this game object inside a empty object that wasn't positioned at 0, you might tend to have some kind of collider issues or body transform issues or body sculpting issues. Sometimes the shape of the animation could change based on the transform of that game object. All right, now we've talked about why it's important to always reset your game object's parent to 0. Let's now come to what we talked about in the class. We talked about Playmaker. All right, to use Playmaker, you could use Playmaker in 2 different ways. All right, you could use it Playmaker editor by coming here and clicking Playmaker editor, and then clicking add FSM, new FSM, all right, to a selected hierarchy on your selected game object on your hierarchy rather. Or you can come here to your system manager. I believe you've created this. Create a system manager by right clicking on this game parent and create empty again, and then you name it system manager. All right, so now that I talked about that, you've made your system manager. Reason why we decided to make a system manager is because we want this, based on the class we are doing right now, we want this to just be organized and let them know that this is where all the system commands are going to be. The commands that need to always be running, the commands that are very important and very power demanding, okay, are going to be. So in case maybe we are looking for a certain script, we can come to the system manager and edit it. Okay, so you made your system manager. All right, come to the add component section and I want you to type FSM. All right, so when you do that, you see the Playmaker FSM. Click on it. You're going to get an empty FSM with a name FSM. Now I want you to rename that name to Start System or whatever you want to rename it to, and click on this button edit, the button edit. All right, now you've clicked on the button edit and this window has popped up. We have what we call boxes. Okay, in the class we used boxes because we're trying to make it sound familiar to others and not scary. Okay, we have boxes, but they call it state. All right, what this is kind of telling you is that in a game, Playmaker has this kind of function which is called states. It could have infinite states. All right, the state has no limit to how far it can go. All right, and this state is simply saying that when the game starts, it's going to start from this state. As you can see, is going to start from this state. This state is kind of like a level. Let's see it as a level. You're going to start from this level 1, and then once it's done doing all the commands you have in level 1, it's going to move to level 2, and this is what we call state 2. We'll call it box 2 or level 2, just for you to remember easily and understand what we are trying to say. So now that, for now, we want state 1 to do, we want the game, once the game starts playing, we want it to do some commands in this current level. All right, this current state box level, whatever you want to call it, just try to understand it better. So one of the most popular things we did, we talked about a specific area in Playmaker, which was a game object aspect. All right, under the game object aspect, we have a log, we have tons of controls, all right, tons of script for you to play with. All right, and I'm going to leave a lot of them for you to mess around with. I expect to see some videos, pictures, and I expect some questions from you guys concerning this Playmaker controls and commands. All right, feel free to try the remaining, and I want to it make me happy to see you guys making some efforts to try and understand more of this Playmaker, by the way. So in this class, we've talked about much, we talked about a lot actually, but I'm going to be talking about few. All right, just to reduce the amount of time we spend in this class for tonight. We have the activate the game object. All right, add component. All right, deactivate destroy object. All right, data children. All right, set tag, get tag. Okay, find game object, get next tag. All right, so now let's talk about what some of these functions do. Right, when we talk about get next child, all right, when we talk about childs, these are childs. This is a parent of these children. This is a parent of all these children. Okay, this is the grandfather, and this is the father. Okay, grandfather of all these children, father of all these children. Father of this and this is not known by this. So when we want to, for example, get a child of a game object, that game object has to be a child of a parent to be able to work. So let's say you want to get a game object, get the next child of a child. To do this, you simply have to change your game object. Another thing to take note of here, when you are working on a script, okay, that is not on the object you want that script to work with, you have to specify the game object. Okay, specify game object, and then you put this. Okay, so when you do this, it's simply telling you that you should get the parent of the game object. Okay, you should get the parent of the game object, so you put in city. All right, so once the game starts, it's going to get the next child, which is floor. From there, it's going to get the next one, which is W. From there, it's going to get the next one, which is another one, like that. All right, it's going to get them accordingly. So it's going to get it and then store it. All right, sometimes you might need this. I've never used this, by the way, but sometimes you might need this for some specific optimization or coding that you're trying to work around. Okay, so talk about get child. Let's remove get child. Let's talk about find game object. Finding game object, they use tags. All right, and what are tags? We have tags and we have layers. Layers is kind of like a screen. All right, it's kind of like a screen that you have. Let's say you have you have a TV screen, yes, and then in that TV screen you have 4 screens, and those 4 screens do different works for you. Let's say one of them helps to reduce the light rays that comes to your eye. Let's say one of them helps with the colors of the TV to make it more realistic. Let's say another one helps you to let's say maybe to dim the, or let's say that's where expensive light rays are being rendered at, something like that. These are basically what layers are for. Layers in Unity are basically used for optimization. If you want to reduce, for example, we have what we call raycast. Raycast is like, consider it like a beam of light, all right? Now let's not say beam of light, let's say a ray, or like a line. Let's say a line, for example, a laser, or you know what a laser is, right? A laser beam. When you on that laser beam, you see it appear on the wall or something like that. Now picture a laser beam being pointed on the wall, and it brings out the color of the laser, which could be green, red, like lecturers use. They use red. Now picture, you can see the light ray. The light ray is that light, that line that goes, that emits from the body of the laser to the wall. Okay, picture, you can see that that's what we call a ray. All right, and a ray by default passes through, interacts rather, with everything it comes across. And with this can cause a lot of setback for performance. It could make your system, some people's system, demand a lot of CPU memory as well, just to do this. Okay, to avoid this, we sometimes we want the ray to just pass through but not interact. We don't want it to bounce back, we don't want it to do anything, we just want it to pass through it. And to do that, we can fix some of these by giving some game objects layers. All right, by default you see some layers. We have the default, we have the transparent. Ignore ray class, like I said. For example, now we want a ray to pass through the wall without interacting with it, which is the memory will not recognize that there was a wall in the first place. The ray is going to consider the wall invincible. All right, so you could do that with the layer. And for the tag is mostly used for triggers, and yeah, it's kind of like just naming something, labeling something, so it can be known by the system. All right, so in case you want to work on your script or something like that, you can use one of the tags to work on a bunch of game objects. All right, so finding game object simply finds the name of the game object with the tag. All right, you can find the name of the game object with the tag. You have for example, now I think you can find the game object without using the tag. Without, you can find the game object without using the tag, but just the name of the game object. And if you don't have the name of the game object, I think you can just use the tag. But the reason why they had this option is because sometimes you might want to find a game object that has the same name, lots of the same name, but then you want to find just one of it, and then you can just use the tag. That might work for you. But once again, I've never used this action. Get tag as well, just to get the tag of a game object. Let's, for example, want to get the tag of this game object and then send it to a different command. Get the tag of this, and then it's going to store it. For example, let's say the tag of this is box. It's going to take the tag of it, and then it's going to use the tag information to do some certain works in the command. Maybe I want to get the tag. Okay, what is the tag of this? Let me get it. It gets it. So it says the tag of this box is a box. Okay, I've gotten that information and I have stored it in the system memory. Now that system memory, that information, I can use it to do some certain things without having to always tag the name of the box, tag the name of the box, tag the box, tag the box, tag the box every single time. Get that tag that I stored and then use it to do some further commands. All right, which we won't discuss now. Okay, I hardly use this, by the way, but I can remember that I've used it before. Now we have set tags. Okay, set tags just to set the tag of a game object. Okay, you just come here, you set maybe editors only. What it's going to simply do is, if this box was box before, the tag was box before, it's going to change it from box to editors only. All right, this is useful for sometimes if you want to do some workarounds, or if you want to like do some smooth changes in the game that you don't want some things to happen, or you want the enemy to stop chasing a certain thing. You can change the tag of that thing, and then the enemy will stop chasing that object. So let's remove that. Let's remove that. We have what did I remove? Okay, we have detached children. This simply detaches children from the parent. All right, once again, specify game objects, dragging the parent in here. It's going to detach everything under this parent. Okay, and then you can maybe decide to delete this parent, and then you can now there's an option for add children or something like that. You can now add the children into a new game object. Okay, this is just kind of like reshuffling and stuff like that, which I hardly used it, by the way. Well, it's important sometimes when you're trying to work around some kind of codes. So let's remove that. Destroy game object. This is simply just to destroy a game object. We did this in the class. We showed an example of what it does. It's just simply going to destroy game object. To cut this short, this is basically just straightforward. Tells you what it does, okay? And by the way, this destroys only one. The delay function is simply telling you that how long do you want me to wait before I destroy this object for you. And what that does is simply just comes to the game, and then it destroys this game view after 2 seconds. Okay, it destroys whatever you selected after 2 seconds. So now I believe I kept the wrong cube there, but let's hope we see it being destroyed. So if you notice, one of these disappeared, all right, and you can see this green line going around this box. All right, this box, this state, yes, you can see this level, you can see it going around this. All right, simply telling you that this is where the system is right now. This is what it's calculating right now. And you could have tens, 20s, 50s of this running at the same time. All right, but you just have to be optimized depending on, it doesn't really matter, it just depends on how optimized your game is. You won't have issues with this scripting. All right, so let's stop the game. Okay, there is something you need to take into account, by the way. When a game object is deleted from the game, and when a game object is deactivated from the game. When a game object is deleted from the game, let's do this, specify game object, and do this. Now I want you to take note of what happens here. You will notice that this W just becomes dimmed, becomes invisible and interactable by the system itself. By the way, this was activated, so yeah, this was unactivated, and this wasn't set to every frame. We set this to every frame before you start the system, then maybe you can make some edits in the play mode. So let's just edit this again, deactivate this. All right, you don't have to set this to every frame because that is demanding, that is performance drawback. It's going to draw your performance. So now we are going to deactivate this cube. So now that the cube is deactivated, you notice that it's still there in the game view. All right, it's still there. You can do some work to it. I could activate it again, deactivate it again. All right, it's still there, and as long as it's still in this hierarchy, it means that it's going to remain in the system's mind. The system is going to keep on thinking about it. So this is not a smooth way of optimizing game objects. All right, there's a trick that we always do when we are making games with game devs. Sometimes if you notice that when you go into a certain level, you can't go back to the previous place you were. Instead, you are blocked. The way you are blocked, we call those kind of things colliders. All right, they prevent you from going back and prevent you from seeing what happened behind. The truth is there is no previous level. The level has been deleted. Actually, it has been deleted by the game's codes, and that's just to help you have a smoother gameplay. Because if all these levels are activated at the same time, this will cause a lot of rendering issues and memory usage for your system. All right, so now we've talked about that. Let's show you what it does when destroyed. When destroyed, you notice that this is no more noticed. Okay, the system's mind forgets about it till you restart the game again. Then that can happen. So just watch this. It's gone. As you can see, it's gone. Okay, So now we've talked about that, let's now talk about some other actions. Deactivate. Okay, then the adding of components simply just adds components. What are components? Components are smaller scripts, Unity inbuilt scripts. Okay, Unity inbuilt scripts that you can use for your game, and these are the components. All these are components. All right, components. So you could decide to add one of them here. Choose which of them you want to add. Unity engine, you choose from Unity engine. Hosting game, you choose from whatever one. Just choose whichever one you want to use. All right, and then you'll be able to use the component. So now that I've explained all this to you, in the next tutorial we're going to be having is an actual game creation. All right, we're going to start making a game together, and I expect you guys to once again download this Playmaker and play with it. All right, do some more tutoring. All right, in the next tutorial we're going to be making a game. All right, we're going to be making a game within 1 hour. 1 hour, we're going to make a game in 1 hour. So buckle up and be ready, because it's going to be a lot more fun than what happened in this lesson. Take care and see you guys in the next lesson. Have any questions? Come to, once again, Discord tutorials permission and ask your questions. Okay, all right, take care.